Borrowed things from Loki, sort of the gold shape around the neck, and the leather, and the cape. The green circles on the arms are the greens for Loki, obviously, and there's little bits of Enchantress there as well. We really wanted it to be super practical, something that you can fight in, and that Sylvie could be on the run in, rather than high heels and a leotard.
What are you doing?
What are you doing?
You're trying to enchant me.
No.
It won't work.
Why? Because you're a magician?
No, because my mind is too strong.
What really intrigued me about the story was that Loki, but doing something a little bit different.
Keep it together.
It's gonna be fine.
She's another version of him in the unlimited universes that are around, and there are many versions of Loki. So her Nexus event pulled her away from her Loki life in Asgard, and so she's been living a parallel life the whole time, and it hasn't been great for Sylvie.
We still needed cues to her being a Loki, but she needed to feel armored in a more lost and found sort of way as well. Badass, tough, and armored.
They've such a gift of a character. I get to just be this absolute badass who's really angry and fight all of these guys.
So I think something that was really fun in looking at Sylvie and her fighting style and looking at what makes her different, and obviously it's the nature and nurture.
Push down.
Whereas Sylvie, she's had to be on the run and live and grow up in an apocalypse. So I always think of her a bit like a feral bite someone. You see her at some point like take off her horns and like put them in someone's face, where identity and someone.
You're not a serious man.
You're right, I'm a god.
You're a clown.
In episode 3 in Sharu, this is a really big moment for Loki and Sylvie in their journey. They're actually working as a team.
We have to get on that arc and make sure it takes off.
How?
We go round.
Loki and Sylvie have to run through this town, and the stakes are very high.
They need to be able to run through this city. We have to build the city.
Where the architecture itself becomes light sources, because there's these elaborate painted patterns that are as a oneer. And so what's required to do that is essentially
cuts in our sequence, but we wanted the audience to feel like it's one shot. So we have stitches that transition us from one shot to the other, but the way that we film them, start to finish.
But he's also a character that I think needs to, you know, get past his demons. And
Sylvie finally gets to the timekeepers, and then she finds herself in a fight with Renslayer. That's a really fun scene. It's like, oh wow, this woman can fight. Ah, sugar, maybe I've met my match here.
This time, I finished the job.
I think because Renslayer came up from the military background as a hunter, and Sylvie really did have this streetwise fighting style.
The stunt team and the fight team are really careful as well about making sure the fights make sense with the story, and we make sure that the scenes work as scenes without any fighting, and then sort of add the fighting in.
I think it does make sense to go back. Yeah, right. Even though it's less aggressive, but she's coming forward. Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like
it's a counter step. It's a really good counter step.
Yeah.
In a musical, you sing when you don't have the words to express how you feel anymore. When you get to that point, you start singing. With this, it's like when you don't have the words to express how you feel anymore, we fight.
I love that it's about self-love and time, and we had a huge, amazing spectacle, and I feel like our episode 5 of Goliath is sort of like almost like our traditional third act of an MCU story. Whereas I loved in episode 6 that it was actually more within our show. Bring to everything I do is like digging into the emotion and way. For me, it feels a bit more real.
Again, I think it's just like, don't be scared to tread on each other.
Okay,
Like,
nice.
because it's like,
Yeah, sure.
Here we go, picture off.
Once you see behind the curtain,
Guys, if I was gonna do an exploding chair, why wouldn't I just do an exploding floor?
And I think when we meet He Who Remains, he's on the borderline of those two things. You don't really know.
The Citadel is essentially uninhabited and abandoned, but there is one solitary light on in the window.
You think I'm just here with you.
I am everywhere.
It's
I hope we've made something that people feel is so very grateful that I'm part of a project that I think is probably, if not the greatest surprise